All right, everyone. Thanks again for stopping by the Exit Roundtable. With me today, I've got Debbie Peterson. Debbie, wonderful to have you, and thanks for stopping by today.
Oh, it's great to be here. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, we're happy to have you because it's so wonderful to be able to talk with people like yourself that have interesting backgrounds and just listen to your story and kind of figure out, what really brought you to where you're at today. Because today people can see you on LinkedIn and they can see your retreats and how you're helping people really figure things out and get focused. But let's start back a little bit earlier. And we were talking before we got on. You talked about a 25-year career in the corporate world prior to figuring out that you wanted to do something on your own. So kind of start back there as what were the kind of things that you were doing in the corporate world?
It was really interesting. The town I grew up in, it's not a large town. There's not a whole lot of opportunities, but some way I have really manifested some cool gigs when it came to the corporate work that I did. It was everything from when I got out of college, it was a medical products company. And so learning a lot about, sterilizing and operating tables, OR lights, equipment booms, things like that produced on a mass scale.
Yeah.
And, as any corporate gig worker will tell you that, there are mergers and acquisitions and companies are bought and companies are sold. And so I have been caught in that trap on more than one occasion. And so that was kind of the first taste of it. Right out of college, moved into, I worked for a water authority for a while. So this town is on Lake Erie, and it is something like 33 trillion gallons of fresh water. And learned all about bulk water intakes and just the whole process of water filtration and it was just fascinating to be able to learn a lot. But here the water authority business is just a little bit political. It was really more than I could take, and I needed it to get out of that environment. It really just caused me to wonder, boy, if it's like this on this granular level, then what is it when you get to the state and the federal government? So I figured out early that wasn't for me. I've had an opportunity. I worked in rent to own for a while for one of the bigger corporate players who again got acquired. And in an investor relations capacity, and moved on to a holding company in my town where the company had, underneath this umbrella, it was planes. I managed planes, a lot of different vacation locations. I managed those. And part of it was a working ranch in Taos, New Mexico. So I learned a lot about Black Angus cattle, grass-fed, and low-stress animal handling techniques and all kinds of things like that. So it's just, opportunities took me in different directions, but it was crazy what I got to learn and a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, you 25 years of it. What did you draw from the 25 years in a few points that you think you pulled forward that helps you be successful today?
Yeah, what I pulled out of it is that in the whole, I would say 3/4 of my corporate career was really playing on my strong suit, and that was just organization and detail and being that person who just handled things, keep a lot of balls in the air, things like that. But it also got to the point where you become so good and proficient at something, you start wondering, okay, what's next? And it was when that what's next popped into my brain that I really ran into a bit of trouble. And so the last piece of my corporate career was kind of, figuring out my way forward and really discovering the true strengths that I had underneath that I didn't even realize. And, one of the last jobs that I had was kind of the proverbial blessing and the curse.
Yeah.
in that, it was a blessing, in that I was, a lot of training. I learned a ton of things. It really expanded me into the leadership role, the leadership positions that I assumed, but it was a tough place to work. Inside of 2 weeks, I thought, oh my God, what have I done? Because I just hated it. And that friction was really what caused me to think, okay, I got to figure this out. And, nobody's going to come and say, this is what you need to do. You need to figure it out on your own. So kind of, building me into the leader that I am, but also that resiliency and kind of creating that toolkit that you can use when you move forward, because it's not always rainbows and unicorns. Things don't always go the way that you want them to. So what do you do then?
Yeah. Well, that's a good point. I mean, I had a similar experience when I didn't realize I was getting myself into when I started doing turnarounds for private equity groups, and there are a lot of times when you're expected to do it and you have to figure it out, and that's a real gut check. I mean, as you're alluding to there, it's a real gut check to go, okay, look around,
It is.
look in the mirror and go, that's who's got to solve the problem today. So let's get started.
Right. It's up to you.
You got to start, because you can't.
You're at the kids' table now, right?
Yeah. I mean, we can sit here and be sorry for ourselves, or and look for something else where we can get something done. And that's cool though, because that is as you said though, those are the best lessons, or those are some good lessons learned, because they're there with you after you move beyond that.
They are. They teach you a lot.
Yeah. So what are some of the things that you learned that you think really apply to what you're doing today?
Oh my goodness. I would say the ranch would be the biggest part of it, the working ranch that I was in New Mexico, because it was so far out of my comfort zone. So, even though I'm not in a major metropolitan area, I was still a city girl by definition out there. And so it was really understanding culture. It was really understanding personalities, in addition to understanding the animals as well. So, it is just, it was diversity at its best in a lot of different layers. And so, that was a huge learning experience. And besides that, it was the training that I got into. I am a certified practitioner of NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming.
Yep.
And so that came through corporate experience. And that is something that I studied and apprenticed for about 3 years. And is certainly applications in corporate, but it's the foundation of my business. It's the foundation of everything that I do. Is taking it's a behavioral technology, and it is literally the language of the mind and how it produces your outcomes. And so I've taken that, all of that, and distilled it and put it through the framework of really creating success without sacrifice, and that's key, on whatever's next for you. So, it's next steps, perhaps in a role that you have. It is a next level, either in your career or business, or maybe it's a next chapter. And certainly when you talk about exit your way, that's a next chapter.
Yeah. Well, I got a couple questions. Questions here, because when you talk about success without sacrifice, I mean, most people, and I'm just going to say my age, look at it and go, that's a farce. Because, we've taught our whole lives that you're going to have to work really hard. You're going to have to, you're going to have to give up things to be successful. So you're saying that there are ways to do this where you don't have to give up anything, or is it that we understand and are doing the right thing, so it's less of what we have to sacrifice?
Well, I'm going to say it's a little bit of both, depending on the person, because, no two people have the same experience. So, certainly it is, those are the stories that we've been brought up with, that, you got to work hard and then you play hard. You can't have a job and have a family. If you work for a corporate, they're going to chew you up and spit you out. I mean, there's just these things that we witnessed as little kids. Maybe it was our parents or other family members, and we picked up these stories that were being handed out, and you'd be shocked at how much they still come into play, and you don't even realize it. So, that is a piece of it. Is it, when you become aware of it, you examine that story and say, okay, is this mine? And is it true? Is it factual for me? So, there are things like that you uncover. And what does success mean? My version of success and your version of success, they're different.
Yes.
And so do you really know what success means to you? Because only until you've identified that can you understand what it's going to take to get there. And a lot of people don't know what that means. And that's part of the problem. So they're throwing everything they know, at it, trying to figure it out. And it involves a lot of sacrifice because they're not working smart at it. They're not being strategic. And so that's what I help people to do, is to make decisions, good decisions for them. Even take the pandemic, for example. People are getting forced out of jobs, laid off, furloughed, whatever the case may be. And even if you have to go and find a job, how can you find one that is more aligned with who you are? That it wouldn't be a grind, that it at least jives with the life that you want and the things that are important to you, because that's what I see is that, that especially now, oh my goodness, I did a live a couple of weeks ago about always being on at work. And that really resonated because especially now, we've got our technology, right? Yeah. And we're always on.
Yeah.
It's causing problems.
Yeah. That's horrible for a lot of people I know. I've about a year ago, I turned off all my notifications on my phone other than for my calendar. I have to leave that on. I'd miss this, And I was telling somebody I'm a calendar zombie. So if it's not on my calendar, I don't know. Nothing happens. But the instant I turn the notifications off, especially when I turn the email, I shut the LinkedIn off first, and then I turned off, of course, Facebook, and then I turned off my email notifications. The email was the hardest, but it was amazing because my phone, yes, I'm on LinkedIn too much. I'll do that. I'm a minute at that. But when I put it down, I don't go check it because I have notifications going off anymore. And it can lay right, on the couch for an hour. I don't even touch it. 2 hours.
Good for you. Good for you.
And it makes a huge difference. And I always talk to people about that very thing. It's like, well, what notifications do you have? Mm-hmm. Turn the darn thing off, or just turn the notifications off, because it's a simple thing that makes a big difference.
It is. And actually, I'm getting ready to take a trip next week, the end of next week, and I am unplugging. So I'm getting ready on the front side of it. I'll have the autoresponder and I'll be as prepared as I can, but I'm going to put it away because that retreat is the time for me. That is how I recharge. That's how I take the space and the grace for myself to be able to come back in a position where I can give to the people that I work with, to the professionals that I support, to advance them. And without that, you're giving of an empty cup. And it's not that you should give from a full cup either. You should give from the overflow. So it's taking time like that to make sure that you can do that for yourself.
Give from the overflow. I like that.
Give from the overflow.
That's cool.
That's the goal.
That's cool. Well, we got Pete Alexander on here. He introduced us. Thank you so much, Pete.
Yeah, nice to see you.
Yeah, it's awesome to. And it's funny. I always laugh because Pete lives like 20 miles from me across the water, literally this direction. I just stick my arm out. I can just about point right at Pete's house. Yeah, that's interesting because, and it shows, I mean, I'm screwed up in the mind. I know that I have been my whole life, and admittedly so. I mean, I grew up and this is when you talk about how we grew up with things. I grew up on a family farm in South Dakota where I was what was it, fourth generation on that farm. And so I grew up watching my grandfather, who was in his 60s, I think, when I can remember, was still coming out there with my father every day, and they were working every single day. And I can remember that the first time that I can remember doing some like weekend vacations, but never really taken a vacation until we were 12 or so years old. But then but it has affected me in my life because I really have to be one that's like, yes, it's not normal to try to do this, 27 days in a row and do those kind of things, even if you're passionate about it. And you talk about recharging and and being able to come from the overflow. I think it's so important because as I got older and realized that and was able to go, okay, you don't have to be the first one that's in the business every morning and the last one to leave every single day. And you go, no, it's better for me to come in later in the morning because I can grab a cup of coffee. I can talk to my kids before they go to school. I can do some other things in my brain. It's a much better position when you get in rather than I got to be first in just because I got to be first in. It doesn't.
Right. And you're working against yourself.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And when you start to
the
go,
shoulds, you start working against yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. But when you kind of start these little things, and I'm sure you help your clients a lot with these little things that we can do that just tweak the way we're doing things a bit, that really can make a huge difference in your overall.
Yeah. And you got to unearth those. The thing is that I say to people is that, you don't need to add anything to who you are. You are perfect just the way that you are. It is a matter of discovering what is covering it up. The answers are inside of you. Everything that you need is inside of you to be able to take action and get what it is that you want to get, whether that's in your career or any other area of your life. But, what is holding you back?
Yeah.
And that is the piece that they need to discover, become aware of, and then they can do something with it.
Yeah. Very cool. So we got a bunch of stuff that I've got written down here that just is going to be awesome. But when you're talking with people, what is the one thing that normally people is just like when you get down to it, what's really holding them back?
Fear, self-doubt, fear of making mistakes, fear of being judged, fear of not getting what they want, fear of getting what they want. I mean, it's just, a lot of apprehension. And the thing is that fear left unchecked can build. Your mind, you plant a seed in your mind and you say, this is what I want to find. Every time, your language, with what you speak and what it is that you think, gives direction to your mind to what to find. So when you focus on fear, then you find more fear. You find supported data. Just look at this political environment that we're in. I mean, you have people that are going at it and they're absolutely right. And they are for themselves. It doesn't matter what side of the fence that you're on. And there's nothing that you can say to sway someone who is convinced and they're on the other side of it. So, it is really figuring out what is holding you back. And it's not external to you.
It's not external to you. I like that. That's a nice way of saying, hey, it's you.
It is, right between these 6 inches, your own 2 ears.
Yeah.
And, and that was my journey when I was in corporate. And I told you I was good for like 3/4 of my career until I got to that point where I was so proficient and it was like, there's more. And I wanted to figure out what more was. I asked for more and I kind of got the pat, you're good where you're at. And I took that on for a while, but it was like, no, I'm not. I meant to do more, but I didn't know what it was. And so that really, tripped me, not having clarity on what it was that I wanted was causing me to be in my own way. Limiting beliefs that I carried about myself, about what I thought I could or could not do, really caused me to play small and held me back for a long time, until I was forced to reckon with them. And then, once they're out, then you can do something about it. So, what I take people through, it is the journey that I went through of really understanding, getting clarity on who I am, what is it that I really want, why do I really want it? And then, okay, once I've got that element, then let's put a plan together. Let's find people that are going to help guide you move in that direction. And let's take care of the baggage that shows up that keeps you from getting it.
Yeah. you said like 6 things in there that just hit so close to home. I mean, limiting beliefs. I mean, that's just that's a 24-hour topic alone when you start talking.
Well, it is a 24-hour a day problem. Because the thing is, when it comes to, a lot of things that hold you back, like you asked me what comes up, and I said fear. Fear, anxiety, limiting beliefs, and things like that. The thing is that if you're afraid of something, it only runs short term. Maybe you walk out the door and somebody's walking in the door and you get startled and for a second, and then it's kind of like, oh, it's you, and you get over it. Or, maybe you're apprehensive about something, but then it comes to some sort of point and you're on the other side of it. So limiting beliefs, negative emotions like anger, sadness, fear, guilt are usually short term. They run for a period of time. You're mad at somebody for a period of time, and then you just kind of get over it. You're not mad at them anymore. But limiting beliefs run all the time. They're full time. They're there in the background, and you don't even know it. So they are the lies you are telling yourself.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I used to tell them to myself. I'm better at it a little, but it's one of the things that when you look at it, self-doubt and limiting beliefs, and I'd run the same thing that you hear people do every day. It's like, well, I don't think I could really do that. But then what do you mean? You've done it 4 times already, and why are you doubting yourself again? And this is the time. It's just another time that you're going to do it. And I think a lot of people get caught in that comparison, whatever you want to call it, comparison. Well, I'm not as smart as they are. Or I'm not as when I don't know if you're trying to talk yourself out of it so you can, I don't know, not even try. You're afraid to try to see what happens. But for myself personally, when I just did the switch and said, I don't care what I think, I'm going to try.
I had a gal once, and she said, Debbie, just treat it like an experiment. Just, it's not about the outcome. Just be curious. Just treat it like an experiment. And that was a game changer for me, because it just took the pressure off. And it's kind of like, okay, and what it was about was the very first workshop I was ever going to do. And I was petrified. That was the advice one of my friends gave me. And it was just pure gold, because you take the pressure off of yourself. And the thing is that if you start comparing yourself to other people and you think, well, gosh, they're just so much better at it than I am. Well, you've just given your mind instruction, and then you're going to go out and you're going to look for something to support it. You actually look for something to happen to say, well, see, I was right. And is that really what you want? Do you want to hold on to that strong?
Well, and like you said, it continues on. It's like the I don't know what that never goes away. If you don't, it just stays there, and it stays there, and so, like you said, treating things like an experiment, and getting over that is got to be a huge game changer when you see people do that.
It is. And you know what? Just getting it out on the table, just having a conversation about it. And it's funny because NLP, neuro linguistic programming, neuro the mind, linguistic is language, programming are your strategies, your habits, the things that you do all the time that you're really not even aware of because it's unconscious. So it's the language of the mind that governs your results, really. And it will, whatever's going on in your head will come out in your language. And so, just hearing people talk, tell me what's going on, and they will tell me, and I will hear, can I give you some feedback? And this is what and they're like, oh yeah. Yeah. So it's getting it out into the room, because once it is, again, then you can do something about it. It's when you let it go. It's when, and especially, so I largely work with women and emerging leaders, but mostly women in leadership. And these are women who have worked hard to get to where they're at. Nothing has been handed to them. And they don't want to deal with things like this sometimes. They'll say, I just need to power through this. I'm a strong woman. I can get through this. I just need to get to the other side. Suck it up, buttercup, whatever it is. And that can be a problem.
Yeah.
That can really start undermining your health. When you are pushing and forcing so hard that it's getting in the way of how you show up in your role. You're that person who's used to just keeping everything in the air and everything going, and you kind of have this flow, and then one day it's kind of like, well, it's not happening that way anymore, and you got to work harder at making it happen. And pretty soon you stall. You're not showing up the way that you want to at work. You're not showing up the way that you want to at home. It's impacting your family, and then it's kind of like you start getting scared. And that's what happened to me. I woke up and looked myself in the mirror and I thought, who are you? Because I just didn't even recognize myself anymore. I had become someone I didn't know.
Yeah.
And then you get scared because it's like, oh crap, this is not something I can push through. This is not something I can power through. And I need to figure something out. And for me, that was the something's got to give moment.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, it sounds like we came to similar positions when I don't know, that was my exit to the corporate career, corporate world was the fact that I always, when I had kids and we started raising them, I was like, I was growing up on a farm. I saw my father every day for 18 years, just about, and I always wanted to do that with my kids. Well, my kids were 12 years old and 9 years old or something like that. And I was gone 2 or 3 weeks a month. And I finally just said, I'm not going to do that anymore. Yeah. I didn't know what was going to happen. I just said, I'm not going to do this. And, but you have to get to that moment where it's like, this is not what I'm doing this for. Right. And I think that we let ourselves get a long ways down that road sometimes. And it is fear that you're going to live the life you don't want to live. Mm-hmm. but it's also exciting because on the other side of that, there's a lot of possibilities. And I think
there are. And think about it, at the beginning of your career, it's all possibility.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fun. It's all about possibility and potential. And then at some point, through our working our businesses, working, in our careers, it's not. And we go into safety mode and it's just kind of, it's protecting. You've got responsibility, you've got children, you've got bills and a mortgage and things like that. And just because you earn good money does not mean that you're happy or fulfilled. And there are ways to move closer to that.
Yes.
If you're willing to look.
That's for sure. So we were talking before we got on here, and I'd written some notes about this. This year has been a big change year for you.
Oh yeah.
Because you're a speaker. You were out speaking to people, keynotes, your events. So
doing the conference speaking.
Yeah.
It's, so I have built up a keynoting business. And so I would travel the country and speak at, a lot of women in financial services conferences, women in leadership conferences, emerging leader conferences, because they seem like they're a really great fit for my message and for my content. Because they do have that question mark in their brain about, okay, what are my next steps? Yes. They're trying to figure it out. And so I really enjoyed it. I would travel a couple, maybe few times a month, and that was just perfect. And then all of a sudden it was just like March and everything had come to just a grinding halt. And, conferences were either canceling or pushing to the summer, hoping they would have a live event, and then pushing to the fall, hoping they would have a live event, or even pushing to next year. So it's just kind of been all over the board. I still have clients that are looking to have live events. And actually, I went to North Dakota last week. Well, week before last for a live event. And it was so much fun to get out again, but it was a little surreal. But, travel, my experience of it was excellent. The airlines really had great protocols in place. People were very respectful. So it was a good experience. But, I mean, this year has, in my term is forced creativity. This has been a year of forced creativity, because it's like, okay, if I'm not speaking, I'm not getting on a plane and going to a conference and speaking, then how can I speak? Because the other thing that happened was at the end of last year, I had my own question mark in my brain, and that was, okay, I'm going and delivering these keynotes with these audiences. I get to meet a lot of great people. They resonate with my story and my message. And then I put them on my email list. It's like, so what? There's got to be something more. And that's when I really looked at taking all of my experience, all of my training in NLP and my studies in Huna, which is a form of Hawaiian spiritualism. Huna, not hula, one letter, big difference, but doing something with that. And so at the very beginning of the year pre-COVID, I had built out a self-study course. I had built out a mastermind course, and I had built out a retreat model to really take those people who want a partner and someone to guide them and asking questions, because that's what it's about. Getting your own answers, but it's hard to ask your own questions to get them. So I was already working on that. But the beginning of it all is that I'm speaking, and then all of a sudden I wasn't. So just, taking everything and putting it online, it's really been great. Last week I had one of my busiest weeks for my business ever. I had 3 events in 1 week. And I know you were talking about a coach before we got on the call here, that, she's seeing more people now.
Yeah.
Doing it virtually. Well, the same thing for me. I mean, I've got another event tomorrow morning, and, like I said, 3 last week and 2 the week before. And so it's more, but I don't have to get on a plane to do it. And it's still great to interact with people. I will be, a hybrid would be lovely when all of it is done, because I do miss meeting people.
Yeah. I think there is that, as a speaker, to be able to see the reaction of the crowd, see the heads nodding, the intent look, whatever it is, where
the writing.
The writing, and missing that in Zoom. When you've got 60 people on a Zoom call, or even if you're using one of the other platforms that you don't see the people. A lot of the newer platforms, when you're just up, you're talking into a camera and you don't even really know what's going on. That is tough, I'm sure, to change to that. And the personal interaction is going to be fun.
And see, I make all of mine as interactive as possible. So, I know a lot of people are getting zoomed out because it's just, it's people talking to them. Everything I do is all about them. And we really have them dig into some good work. So they walk out with their own plan at the end of the keynote or the virtual training or whatever it is. So it's still been a lot of fun to do. And I've gotten great feedback. So again, hybrid would be great. But it's, and even, when I thought about this at the end of last year, building out the retreat model, my retreats were supposed to be in person.
Yeah.
I had planned it that I would pick a location and we would go off site, because the busy professionals that I work with don't take the time. And that is part of the problem. If you aren't where you want to be in your career or business, or if it isn't going the way that you want it to go, meaning that, hey, I am trading so much just for the security of a paycheck. And I don't think that's cool anymore. Just like you said with the travel, it's necessary to have that time away. It is necessary to have that time to unplug so that you can do the good thinking, the deep work around it to figure out your way forward, to get your answers. So the retreat was supposed to be live, and I converted it to virtual. And I thought, okay, how is this going to go? And at the beginning of October, just a couple of weeks ago, I did the first virtual retreat, and it just exceeded my expectations. So how the people came together, because I run it in a partially mastermind format, just how they support each other, empower each other, just brainstorm with each other. It exceeded all of my expectations. So that was terrific. That insert happy dance here is
There you go.
what that was. Yeah. So the next one in January will also be virtual, and I've opened enrollment for that now. So I'm excited about it.
Yeah.
Now that I've had a chance to do one, it's just really, and I can tweak it and make it better, and it's going to be really cool.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because you talk about the hybrid model, and I see things like this, and I'm wondering, will it evolve to the point to where you're actually doing keynote speaking in person with a group, but there are people that are also virtual offline, or the online virtual to that event when you're speaking, that kind of interact with it that way too, because there's just so many possibilities the way that you can put these things together that way. And
there are a lot of possibilities.
I know it's like, okay, now our minds just got blown because we have all these other things we can do. And just for us, we started working virtually almost 2 years ago now, it's over 2 years ago now, out of necessity, because I live in the Northwest. My partner lives in Utah. We've got other people that live in Denver and Los Angeles and across the United States. And it's like, hey, we aren't going to travel like that. We can't go to all of our clients. We can't do that kind of stuff. We just have to learn how to do it. But when you start to think about how that works and the things that the freedoms and the opportunities that it creates, there really are a lot of ways that you can do things you never could before. Because for us, the one,
I mean, look at all of the industries, that have been forced to, change.
Yeah, exactly.
And the things that are coming out of that. I mean, I think there's going to be a lot of information to unpack on the other side of this. I think there's a lot we don't know. I think some of it is just going to be absolutely amazing, and I think some it's going to be a shame that it wasn't known about, because I think that there are some people who are being missed that need care and other things like that. But from a technology standpoint, I mean, just crazy innovations coming out of this. I think it's cool.
Well, yeah, and you said one thing that I'm actually going to try it here in the next couple of weeks is the telehealth, right? Why the heck were we not doing telehealth before? You got us, whoever, and especially older people that traveling might not be their thing anymore. They may not want to travel. Can they talk to a doctor now? Yeah. Why weren't they talking to them a year ago like that? Because it was there. There's so many possibilities that we have now it's really something. And when you look at, if I'm trying to run a business and I want to have better customer service, a phone or an email does not do the same as video. If my customer service people are now connected to their customers through Zoom or Teams or Slack or something where you can do the audio, the text, the video instantaneously, and then you can see when they're in meetings and not. I mean, that's the one thing that for us,
it's amazing.
It changed the game when we took our clients and said, listen, you're in Teams with us. They can see when I'm in a meeting, so that if there's something they want to talk about, they can see Damon's green, boom, hit the video, talk to me. Awesome. And when you're out and about running up and down the coast or whatever the heck you're doing, and you're traveling like that, and you're not using that technology like that, that whole interaction is missed. Your chance to help them, your chance to solidify that relationship, your chance to make that long-term difference in both of your lives is sometimes missed.
Yeah. There's just so many more opportunities to connect.
It's going to be fun.
It is going to be fun. Here's you're a big LinkedIn guy. You know about the app, right?
Yeah.
And the QR code in the app.
Yeah, I saw that.
Are you familiar with that?
I haven't dug into it yet.
The QR code?
Yeah. So what's it do?
So, at the top of the search bar on your LinkedIn, there's 4 squares. And when you hit the 4 squares, it'll either bring up the camera, or it'll say my code, and it'll bring up a code. Now, anybody who is watching this could hold their camera, and it will scan that code, even through StreamYard, even through the video, and
Oh,
you can connect. No.
That's cool as heck. So you could just turn my phone around the right way, huh? But you just go
And
like
I don't know. Yeah. So if we're connected already, but if I had I could scan that through.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the thing is, I've been incorporating that into my virtual keynotes. Just, hey, connect with me. I put my QR code on the screen. I just tell them what to do. Hold up your camera, and the connections start coming in. It's
just freaking awesome,
isn't it? Yeah.
I saw
and so, from that standpoint of no matter what it is that you're doing, if you are looking to accelerate your career, if you're looking to accelerate your business, if you are looking to go to the next chapter, whatever that is, even, retirement, whatever it is, exiting your business, you need people to do it.
Yeah.
And people who surround you and support you and get you and tell you what you need to hear, not necessarily what you want to hear. You get that. And LinkedIn is just a great source to have that happen. And so I encourage, a lot of my audiences is if you're not on it, get on it. And if you're not using it, use it, because, if you aspire to do something, go find the person who's already doing it. Connect with them. What advice or guidance do they have? You don't have to recreate the wheel. You don't have to figure it out all on your own. Either you go to the guy who can do the consulting, you come to the coach who can lay out the roadmap for you, but you involve other people. You don't have to do this in isolation.
Well, and that's for sure, because the support, the information and support you can get from it when you take the time to meet someone digitally, take that initial meeting or whatever you want to call it offline to a phone call, Zoom call, whatever it is, and meet them in person if you can. Those kind of things. That's really the power of LinkedIn. I didn't realize this until 12, 14 months ago when I started this, was that the power of LinkedIn is I can find people that I could never find before. That's the first thing. But the exponential power is when we do like we've done and we're doing today, that we're having a conversation. We're getting to know each other better. And now we have one more person that we know that is in our network. And if there's something that comes up, we're going to go, Debbie.
Yep.
That's the person I need to talk to.
And that's how it works. That is why you need to connect with other people. So if you're not connecting with other people, go connect with other people.
Yeah. I know there's some people that's like, I don't want to connect with them. Hey, do it.
That's exactly how it happens. The more people who know what you're about, what it is that you're trying to accomplish, the more advocates you have out in communities. And now this virtual community is global. Who say that same thing. Wow, I just connected with this guy and you need to meet him. And that's when the magic happens. So it's,
That is 100% there. And it's so cool. And thank you for sharing that about the QR code. I saw it on the updated app and I'm like, QR code. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
But that's awesome. And now look, you took that piece of technology, incorporated it into yours to make it easy for people to connect with you. I mean, I'm gonna use it. I'm gonna steal it. I hope.
Hey, you did totally.
Because in our events, we're gonna start using that, because we have people put the links in the chat or whatever. Heck with that. We're gonna hold them up to the phone.
And it was just out of curiosity. Again, the one day I'm like, I wonder if I can do this, and I did, and I was like, oh,
yeah, that is super cool.
Yeah.
Well, it's that's really cool stuff. So the virtual retreats are going well. You got some going on in another one in January that you're opening that up. So how do people get, if they want to find where they register for your virtual retreat in January, where are you going to have that at?
Actually, what I have them do is go to claritywithdebbie.com.
Okay.
To book some time on my calendar, because it's very prescriptive. I mean, the more I do the work, the more I really narrow who it is for. And so it is for that person trying to figure out their next steps. Yeah. They don't know what's next, or they are trying everything in their power to get to next and it's not working. So, next level, next steps, next chapter. Those are the people that are a fit for the retreat. And so, I just like to have a conversation, because if they are a fit, I'll absolutely tell them. If they're not a fit, then I want to help give them some strategies and maybe pair them up with somebody that can help them. But I I do it that way. So clarity with
That's awesome. ClarityWithDebbie.com, and we'll make sure to have that in the comments here when we're done. I'll put it in the comments, but that's great. And I love that way. I mean, the two reasons, because hey, it's not for everybody. Nobody sells one size fit all service, right? And I think that's a great way to do it, is to talk to people to really understand, because you don't want to do it. You don't want someone to come to your retreat and not have 150% satisfaction and success with what they do.
Yeah, because you got to play full out. And if you have someone in there that isn't a good fit, then it affects the whole group. And I'll tell you, it was just beautiful what happened with this group. So, that's definitely the chemistry that I want. So, I can help people even if I'm not the one to, take them the rest of the way. So I can definitely connect them with people too.
Yeah. Yeah. Very cool.
And clarity is just kind of my superpower. I don't know why, but I can see things that people can't see. So, I just help to point out things that at some level they probably know, but there's some stuff covering it up. So,
yeah. No, hey, you're helping people, and it's awesome. And I love getting to learn more about it, because you can tell you exude this ability to help people. And I just love it. So thanks so much, Debbie, for stopping by today and talking with us. It's been a real pleasure.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
And then again, if you're interested in the January retreat, you go to ClarityWithDebbie.com, set up a time to talk to her, and you guys can see then if it makes sense. So,
yeah, and no matter, I have them every quarter. So if it's not January, then we're looking at April or so.
Very good. Very good.
Yep.
All right. Well, thanks a lot, everyone. And this is from the Exit Your Way Business Roundtable live stream with Debbie Peterson today. We're signing out. Thanks a lot, everyone.